Are we starting now?
Yeah, 100%.
Is this thing on?
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you remember what the name of our podcast is?
Yes. It is. How about or what
yeah,
about?
it is. No, it's How About.
How
Hey,
About?
guys. Welcome to How About. My name is Jared,
And I am Kevin.
and this is our podcast where we talk about a movie each episode.
Yeah.
Break it down. Each of us chooses a movie every other episode.
Yep. And
And,
then
yeah, we talk about that episode.
talk about the movie. Yeah. During the episode, we'll talk about
Yep,
the movie.
That's
Yeah.
what I meant.
That's what you
Everybody
said.
knows that.
That's what you said.
100%.
Yep.
All right. So this episode is the Clovehitch Killer. Kev,
Yeah.
you want to take it away?
Sure. Yeah. The Clovehitch Killer follows a 16-year-old boy. I don't know how old he is.
Yeah, I'm only comfortable saying teenager.
Sure, teenager. He's living in a small town in America, and 10 years before the movie starts, a serial killer is kind of murdering people in that small town. And the movie just sort of deals with themes such as growing up. You know, it's a coming-of-age movie, father-son bond and relationship, and a classic Americana.
Yeah.
A lot of great Boy Scout stuff that happens.
Yeah. A very
Um,
classic small town American indie film.
Yeah,
Is the feel that I really get.
Yeah, that's a good way to sum that up.
So you were the one who decided on this movie. How did you find it?
I found it from the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I saw it on Reddit or something, and I was like, "Ooh, this movie looks interesting." So I watched it, and I was like, "Wow, this movie has great atmosphere, and yeah, basically the atmosphere was amazing." And so I thought that it would be a fun movie to discuss in our other movie thing that we do with some of our friends.
We have a group called the Academy where we watch a movie each month, which
Yeah.
is also going to be a part of this podcast. We're going to talk about each of those movies for our off episodes.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, I thought it would be a fun movie to discuss for that. But then I got impatient and was like, I'll just have Jared watch it because I think he might like it. And also our other friend watched it too.
Yeah.
Shout out to Adam.
Yeah. Way to go, Adam. I know you're not listening to this podcast.
No one's listening.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
Yeah, did you I saw that Red Letter Media had a breakdown of this.
yeah, I watched
um,
that after I watched the movie.
Okay.
Because I thought that the subject matter would be better if you went in knowing nothing. Unfortunately, I had seen the trailer,
Yeah.
which more or less spoils the whole movie. Well, not spoils it, but yeah, we were talking about this before the mics turned on, that I thought that the movie would be a different experience if you knew nothing about it going in.
Yeah, it'd be more of a mystery as
Right.
opposed to a I guess I'd like to say that this is a how they did it movie, not a who done it.
Yeah.
That is more the procedure of what's happening as opposed to the real mystery of stuff. But yeah, I think it would be a little bit more dramatic if you didn't know straight off the bat exactly like what's gonna happen. Which yeah, also we want to address spoilers. So if you want to watch this movie, if this sounds interesting to you, Americana indie movie from a first-time director, which is, I think, really remarkable,
Yeah.
starring Dylan McDermott, if you like him, go watch this movie and then restart this podcast, because from here on out, we're going to have spoilers.
Yeah.
So, Spoiler City. All right, you
Yeah.
ready? Everybody prepared? If you hit that pause button, quickly pulled the headphone jack out of your phone.
And we're off.
Yeah, so the dad's the murderer.
Yeah.
And that was very clear from the trailer, which is like
Right.
I feel like that's one of those trailers that this is a tiny, tiny, tiny movie. I looked it
Right.
up and it got like, it opened in like 100 theaters or something like that and made
Yeah.
like $90-something thousand,
Yeah.
which is just nothing.
Right. I mean, I'm sure the production budget was also
Yeah, I mean it's the indie and
like
the
nothing.
very
Yeah.
So, but I think it has Dylan McDermott, and then people are like, yeah, why would we watch this movie from a nobody? And
Right.
know people, so they cut a trailer where it's like it's about who this murderer is, kind of as a ploy.
Right. It's sort of like, yeah, try to get the whodunit-esque crowd. But I mean, I think when I was pitching this movie to you, I said it reminded me a lot of a David Fincher film,
Yeah,
just like the intensity and like the atmosphere and just like how like slow and deliberate. It's sort of like a Gone Girl type movie.
yeah,
Um, it's not like exactly like that, but that's like the closest comparison I
yeah. I
had.
feel like yeah. So I've been thinking about that. So I also watched the Red Letter Media people talk about it, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I don't. It's David Fincher in its plot devices and the
Mm-hmm.
way that it plods along,
Mm-hmm.
but stylistically, I David Fincher is a very different director. So
Sure.
this actually reminded me a lot more of Denis Villeneuve, who
Oh,
did
okay.
who's doing the upcoming Doom, but also did like
Mm-hmm.
Sicario and Blade Runner 2049.
Mm-hmm.
In that, like, so I watched his first, I think it's his first feature length movie called Enemy, which stars Jake Gyllenhaal and a few other like kind of famous people. But it's also a very small indie sort of mystery thriller type deal, and it felt a lot like this in that it very clearly was um, cheap to make.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not meaning that like, but also like perfectly fit. The budget fit exactly what they were trying to do, which I really
Right. Yeah.
appreciated about this movie is that it was trying to be very small.
Yeah, I think that's what I appreciate the most pretty much is like how you can like while watching the movie you can feel that like everything that's happening is like what the directors and the writers like what they wanted to have happen. Like and everything is there and has a purpose.
Yeah,
You know, there's like a scene in the very beginning where they're like he's like talking to all the Boy Scouts and they're like talking about how to like hold the flag in the wind and stuff like that. And like just how that scene was like directed, I felt had a very like strong hand,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. It felt very controlled, and it felt like every step was deliberate.
Yeah.
But also, I again, as a first-time director, it's remarkable that he made this good of a movie, and I'm really
Right.
excited for whatever comes next.
Right. Yeah.
And that, like, yeah, very clear control of the tools that he's using, and especially like yeah, I feel like David Fincher sometimes gets away with that he just hires really good actors and he doesn't
Hmm.
really have to coach them. So in that way, I felt like this director was maybe a little bit like J.J. Abrams, and that I think J.J. Abrams is a really great actors director, and
Hmm.
that like he talks to his actors and he gets really good performances. Because I thought everybody in the Clovehitch Killer, was really good,
Right. Yeah.
including the kids and all the other people who aren't like really. I mean, Dylan McDermott is like
Yeah. He's a
a
he's a
medium star.
he's a career actor. He's done
Yeah,
things.
but he's not like a I mean, he's not a Brad Pitt type
No. No.
person. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, but yeah, and it was also just a lot of stuff rang very true. Like the whole Boy Scout troop stuff, I also thought was very interesting. Being a Boy Scout
Hmm.
myself, a lot of that stuff was appropriate.
Hmm.
Um, or
Just like the
yeah,
like the family is very religious and like
mm-hmm.
just how they're going about like setting up food drives and all these other things like it.
Yeah.
y-
Yeah, that their
Yeah.
life is kind of consumed by the
Right.
church
Yeah.
bit
Yeah.
felt rang very true.
Yeah. And so
Um
like the the main character Tyler, his life sort of starts spinning out of control a little bit, um, in a very small way, right? So
yeah.
like before even he thinks that his dad is this famous Clovehitch killer, you know, there's like rumors being spread about him, and like all that felt very real and like very um very grounded. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, and that like also adding to that grounding is that there's not a ton of music in
Oh yeah,
this.
yeah,
It's very low score involvement,
yeah.
which I really appreciated. So I actually, yeah, weirdly, I watched a few episodes of The Orville recently, and that's a show that has a lot of really big music.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt weird to me
Mm-hmm.
after this movie that like a tiny little, no score movie just like builds stress and anxiety so much more.
Right, yeah. And I mean, I think like a prime example of that is the final like the climax of the film, the final confrontation. It has no music at all. It's just completely silent, just the characters talking and just that like scene is so much more tense because there's not like some annoying like violin like going
Yeah.
you know in the background or like you know the movie trusts itself to create that tension through like, the characters, like the journey that they had to go through to get to this point.
Yeah.
The movie created the tension. It does not need an assistance from any sort of
Yeah, it doesn't
audio
need
stimulation.
it's not trying to heighten itself,
Yeah.
and it's not trying to really be a heightened movie.
Yeah.
And that it respects that is, yeah, just really effective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also liked. I thought so. After watching, I thought a lot about this movie, of course. But also, I really enjoyed the sort of duality that's exposed of the dad.
Mm-hmm.
That him with the troops, he's like this really confident, sort of the leader of that whole gang. And then
Mhm.
later, after we sort of, so there's like that bit of a time jump at the end,
Mm-hmm.
where it comes to a head, and then we jump back in time, and then we
Mhm.
follow what's going on.
It's a point of view switch. Yep.
Yeah. So watching the dad, like the big thing was the interacting with the cop, which I just
Yeah.
thought was like so funny and weird, and just exposed him as a very like deeply insecure weirdo.
Yeah, that scene almost feels like he's like baiting, the cop a little bit. Like
Yeah.
he knows that he's done
Yeah,
horrible
that classic
things.
serial killer.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
serial killers like to hang out with cops because they
Right.
they kind of want to be cops.
Yeah, right.
But also that like just how awkward he is with other adults, but then how in charge he seems with the kids is
Yeah.
sort of another layer to his mental health sort of instability.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just a really great wrinkle that like you don't necessarily. I feel like you don't often see that.
Mm-hmm.
Is not really about like exposing kind of people who do evil things is also just like very broken.
Yeah.
But it was very clearly very broken.
Right, but he had such a great facade
Yeah.
of like this father, family man, like troop leader, that seeing that like completely broken side of him was
Yeah.
very interesting, and it became it was all the more believable because of how great his performance was.
Yeah, he's really good, and
I
yeah,
don't
great
actually
writing.
don't think I've seen anything else Dylan McDermott has actually done.
Yeah, I feel like he's one of those names that I know.
Yeah, like
but
I've heard his name before.
Yeah, I didn't recognize really anything on IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
When I was there.
Yeah.
Oh wait, he was in Perks of Being a Wallflower. Have you seen that?
I have not.
Okay. He also plays the dad in that.
Yeah, literally nothing.
Yeah, but he's really great, and
yeah. So is the kid Charlie Plummer plays Tyler Burnside.
Yeah.
Very very quiet performance.
Yeah. Yeah, very quiet movie.
Yeah, just in general, we talked about the score and how it was very minimal. But I think all of Tyler's lines are delivered in a whisper, essentially.
Yeah.
But you can actually hear what's being said. They made sure that there's no music going on, so you can hear the
and it's not
the
that
delivery.
Annoying sort of whisper acting of like I'm a villain, so I'm gonna like bring your head in as I'm about to hit you in the face, and I'm gonna whisper in your ear.
Right. It's just like conveyed like Tyler's like lack of confidence.
Yeah,
and,
just like an awkward teenager.
Right. His whole identity is sort of portrayed through his voice.
Yeah. And yeah, adding to that being a quiet, it's a very subdued movie. There's not like any big action set pieces or any sort of like huge like the pace is very deliberate but also constant.
Yeah.
Which is like I feel like often movies can sort of oscillate between the two, that we can have really up tempo and really down tempo, and I really enjoy if you pick a lane and you stick to it.
Right.
That like it may seem like it, I don't know. I didn't think that it was that slow of a movie. It was more just deliberate.
Yeah, and that's what I think is so great about it, is that like you're like when you watch it for the first time, it's constantly moving.
Yeah.
And like it's like kind of bringing you along. It's not like rushing itself, or it's not like going crazy.
Yeah. It's not really building to anything specific either.
Yeah. It just sort of it's going at its own pace.
Yeah.
It's letting you kind of.
Yeah, which adds to the dread, especially like when it becomes apparent that Charlie knows that his dad is probably the Clovehitch.
Yeah.
And then there's the misdirect of like, oh no, it's your uncle.
Who is conveniently brain dead.
Yeah. And then like when what's her face? What is her name?
Cassie?
Yeah, Cassie shows up just like randomly when the dad is like taking pictures of himself.
Yeah.
Like that was very scary because it's not gonna like break out into like a big brawl in that house. But
Right.
like,
But you
I
don't know what's
thought,
gonna
yeah,
happen. Yeah.
I
Right.
was certain that he was gonna kill her,
Yeah.
or
at
at least
attempt.
attempt
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
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 Yep.
And then again, another good use of the reveal is like kind of a Rashomon type thing.
Mhm.
But we get to see the other perspective of what's happening there.
Right.
Yeah. And like, yeah, I think one of my favorite things was Charlie under the bed watching his
Yeah.
dad like take off the shoes and stuff to go
Yeah.
answer the door.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I thought that was really effective and
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. It built tension in a very, very deserved way.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah. So what about this? What drew you to this movie? Like, so you saw it on Reddit. What said to you like I'm gonna actually check this movie out?
I saw the poster. I was like, "Who's this nerd?" And it's Dylan McDermott. And then I read the synopsis. And I was like, "I'm not doing anything right now. I might as well watch this movie."
Okay.
And then I watched it. And then a couple days later, Red Letter Media had posted their video, and I was like, "Wow, I was there first."
Yeah,
And
what
then
a coinkydink.
yeah. Um,
So then, why do you think I would like it? What about me, led you to
well,
think that this movie would fit?
it's a very because of how like deliberate and like sure-handed the movie feels. It's like I don't really know how to say this other than that it's a movie.
Yeah,
Like it's definitely not a mess, and it's not like, oh, this would work better in a different medium, like as a book or like, a comic or an animated show or anything else. The story works really well as a movie because of all the choices that the creative team behind it made, like the lack of score, like just like how shots were composed.
yeah,
Everything works really well as a movie.
mm-hmm.
And so I thought you would appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. That it's important if you're making an audio-visual presentation
Yeah.
that you should take into account the audio and visual
Yeah.
components of that and try to make it, distinct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a good one, and I feel like I would not have picked up this.
Yeah.
Even if I'd like seen the trailer, like maybe if a lot of people or a lot of writers or something that I read had recommended it. And I look back and it like has almost no reviews.
Yeah. And
Um,
they're okay. I think like has like a 73 on Rotten Tomato or something like that.
Yeah.
I saw that like someone on the Roger Ebert site gave it like 2 stars out of like 5. He
Yeah.
didn't like it very much. But
Yeah. Which is always like, I don't know. What do you like? This is a classic sort of discovery movie that it's like, a nothing movie kind of out of nowhere that nobody's seen.
Mhm.
And that always gives me a little bit of a thrill, I guess, to
Mhm.
like watch those movies and then to like kind of get out the vote for them.
Right.
Like to like, drive people to the movie.
Mhm.
Because it's like, I mean, it's not, Godfather Part 2 or something. Like it's
No.
not it doesn't break cinema.
Mhm.
But it's also very solid and I want people to support it.
Yeah. Like the fact that it's a first-time director is like extremely impressive. It
Yeah.
reminds me a lot of The Witch, which I loved and you did not.
Yeah.
But that's
I didn't-
another
yeah.
another first-time director, and like and just both of those movies, like it's like clear that someone thought about things that they were putting in the film.
Yeah.
There was never a scene where you're like, why would you do that? Like, not from like a character perspective, from like, a creative perspective. Like what made you decide that this was a good idea?
Yeah.
And like I think that happens like so often in like big budget films because they just do things happen.
Well, I mean, there's so many conflicting
right, there's like
sort of
you have like
agendas
50
from
different
everybody.
writers and 40 producers, and they're all like, hey, you should do this. And
Yeah.
then like I mean these like smaller scale like indie films with a good director, you can have a movie that's very solid
Yeah.
and it feels like a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's always fun to like this reminds me a lot of or the type of movie reminds me a lot of Calvary. Have you seen that?
No,
Okay. I think I've recommended it maybe.
possibly.
But it's another like it's an Irish movie.
Mhm.
But it's a small town Irish town movie that is also like I don't know another person who's seen it, and I keep telling people, "Hey, you gotta go watch it." And they're like,
Mhm.
"Yeah."
You have to choose it for the movie club,
Yeah, I might.
and then no one will show up.
I mean, it's not streaming anywhere either. So,
Oh, that's a problem.
but it's got Brendan Gleeson in it. So good.
Who?
You know Donald Gleason's dad?
Domhnall Gleeson?
Yeah, Donald Gleeson.
What? Okay, sure.
Yeah, it's his dad.
Okay.
He played Mad Eye Moody.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's a big like British actor guy.
I mean, all I've seen him in is Mad Eye Moody. So he
Wait,
looks
you
like a
saw
weirdo.
Live Die Repeat Edge of Tomorrow, right?
Seen that movie?
Yeah, he's the general at the beginning who sends Tom Cruise on his mission.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god.
I didn't know
Do you
that.
even watch movies, dude?
No.
Okay.
It's gonna be a great podcast.
Yeah, super good.
Yeah.
Just the best.
Anyways, so before we started talking, before we started the podcast, we started talking about if we were gonna have like a rating scale for each movie.
Yeah.
And I said that
You had some crazy dumb idea.
I had several dumb ideas.
Yeah.
The first was that every movie we reviewed would have a different rating scale, so that it would be impossible to compare the two.
Yeah. And I want to say on the record, I think we should not do that. It's a fun idea, but let's not.
Sure, that's fine. But more seriously, of course, people ask like, "Oh, scale of 1 to 10, what do you think of this movie?" And for me, when they say scale of 1 to 10, I try to use numbers 1 through 10.
Yeah.
And so most movies for me end up around a 5, which I think is like average.
Yeah.
Because it's like the middle of 1
So,
through
but this
10.
calls into question though that there's a difference between judging all movies in history and the
Mhm.
movies that you've seen, and your scale depends on in the movies you've seen. Most of the movies you've seen are 5. But I would argue that I think that you watch more better movies than you do worse movies. And so you're going to be watching a lot more 6, 7s, 8s, and 9s than you are going to be watching sort of in the middle of the scale, because we just like don't like there are only so many of the rooms that we watch, or like I don't know, Mulan 2s or Spirit Horse of the West or whatever that movie was. Do you remember that movie?
No, I don't know.
No,
What
it
you're
was a
talking
horse
about.
movie and there was no dialogue.
It sounds awful.
Yeah, it was horrible.
No, I mean, I think that, yeah, that's a sort of valid point. I just think that I mean, I'm not perfect, right? And so there are movies that I give 10s to that I know that don't deserve
Well,
to be
yeah, I
called
mean it's
perfect
your
movie.
scale. Yeah.
It's just like why I like them so much for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then there's movies that other people really like that I like squished down because I decided they were terrible for no real reason. I
Yeah.
have reasons, but they're not like we would argue back and forth forever about whether or not they're any good.
Yeah. Because judgment reason.
Right. Yeah.
Personal judgment.
So personally, I would give this movie like 7.5.
Okay.
I think that it's like there's, and so the problem with that score for me is that I don't know what it could do to go higher on the scale. It's not like anything didn't work for me, or I felt that anything was wrong with the film, or was like I hated how the characters decided to do this. I thought that everything that they did was great. The final shot ends with Charlie Plummer as Tyler Burnside looking directly into the camera.
Yeah.
And I was like, fucking send it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just feels like a 7.5 film for me.
Okay.
But again, like I give both movies like a 5.
Yeah. So this is definitely above average.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd give this a solid 8.
Yeah.
There's not. It's exactly an 8 in that it set out to be an 8 in my opinion, and it hit all of the marks along the way to make it exactly that. Yeah, and then also like everything else about like I'm excited to see what's next. For this director and also for these actors, especially the kid actor.
Yep. Charlie Plummer. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah.
Who directed this movie again?
It's a guy named Duncan Skiles.
Skiles, yeah.
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 Oh yeah, it's also written by one of the writers of Spidey-Man: Homecoming.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Christopher Ford?
Yeah.
Who
Yeah, he
wrote
was one of the like
Spider-Man?
5 writers who wrote that movie,
Whoa.
Spider-Man.
Oh, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought Into the Spider-Verse
Oh,
just on
no,
my
no,
brain.
no.
I was like, that's weird,
Yeah.
but okay.
No. I mean, all those people are like kind of the same sort of comedy people.
Right, yeah.
We're also like screenwriters.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, a solid 8 because yeah, just exactly what he set out to make this movie.
Yeah. No, yeah, it
Um,
feels very deliberate, you know.
Yeah. And also kind of yeah, that I think to your point of like you don't know how it would be better than a 7.5 that
Mhm.
it's not it doesn't take any big swings and so it also doesn't miss any of those big swings.
Right, yeah.
And it also isn't trying to be innovative, it's just trying to be kind of workmanlike in its diligence.
Yeah, yeah.
And it and that works and that's
Yeah. It's definitely
that's
not like a groundbreaking film.
Yeah.
But I think like at the same time, like there's something to be said for a movie that just does what it wanted to do.
Yeah. And and for me it doesn't really like scratch any particular itches that I have of like things that I enjoy seeing in movies. Like I mean, for one is I like a good score. This doesn't have any score and that doesn't like take points off, it just doesn't get
Doesn't
bonus
add,
points
yeah.
for me.
Mhm.
Yeah. But then it's also kind of like I enjoy watching directors sort of oeuvre as they evolve. And this is a fun one to get on the ground floor. Like again,
Right,
my Denis Villeneuve thing is like watching Enemy and then watching his subsequent films. It's like pretty interesting to see sort of his evolution as he gets more confident and like
Right.
kind of understands more stuff and learns how to use tools differently.
Mhm.
And gets more money is the big thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Although I'm afraid that Dune remake is going to be awful.
Yeah, maybe.
Everyone cool is signing up for it, which means that it's going to be hugely disappointing.
I mean, maybe. Look at
Also the source material is a mess.
Yeah.
So,
Got it.
but
But
anyways,
he's making 2 movies. That's gonna fix it.
Oh yeah. So anyways, final
Yep.
thoughts. If you haven't seen this movie and you listen to us spoil the whole thing, it's
Why?
probably still.
What are you? Huh?
Yeah, but I mean, it's probably still worth watching. It's a. I was about to say it's a fun movie. It's not fun.
Oh no, it's definitely not fun.
It's not fun. I have fun watching it because
Yeah.
I think that I like watching a movie where everything is in its proper place.
Yeah.
Sort of.
It was a
OCD.
rewarding movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, go check it out. Support these indie films.
Yeah. Despite my 7.5, a very strong recommendation
It's
for me.
It's a glowing 7.5.
A glowing 7.5. As good a 7.5 as it could possibly be.
That's still a fresh tomato on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it is.
So that's all that matters.
Yeah. Anyways, you got any closing thoughts? Do you have a movie picked out for our next time?
No. Well, so our next movie is gonna be Alien.
Oh yeah,
because
that's
that's
right.
what we're doing for
Ooh, that'll
our
be
movie club.
That'll be a fun discussion. I have lots of thoughts on that movie.
Yeah. So then afterwards, I do have some ideas.
That's good. We can talk about that later. It's fine.
We'll talk
Alien
about
is
that.
the next
we'll
one.
talk about that next episode.
And yeah, we're talking about that in a weekish or
in
next
2
week?
weeks. I think we're gonna go bi-weekly
what?
with this.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. So we are talking amongst ourselves.
Right.
The end of this week.
Right. That'll be great.
Yeah, we'll shoot. We'll make another episode, maybe
Or not. You know, who knows?
This could die. Maybe nobody hears it.
Probably no one will hear this. Anyways,
That was fun.
this was a fun discussion.
Yeah.
I hope anyone listening at least listened to the first 2 minutes where
Yeah.
we talk about how the movie is good, and then went and watched it, and then forgot about this forever.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be fun. So you can follow us. We are How About Pod on everything. The
Really?
Instagram, the Twitter.
I didn't know we
You can
had a
email
Twitter.
us at howaboutpod. Yeah, I was gonna tell you that, and then I didn't.
Okay.
Howaboutpod@gmail.com if you want to shoot us a Gmail mail.
Wow.
So thanks for tuning in, folks.
Bye.
Laters, taters.